Ah. All right, Timmy, what do you got?
First question, what's in the cup? None of my business?
Yeah, but did I say
That's
that
what
before?
I think so.
Yeah.
You've used that once or twice. Whatever it is, it's earned. The last play, did you expect the seas to part quite that wide?
Look, I've had that play on my card listed as CQ for 4 years. So when it got to that point, Quinny said, hey, we should run that. And I said, you know what? There's no better person than to diagram it than the one who came up with the dang thing. So I just had him diagram the play. And it worked beautifully. I thought Norm sold it really well. And then, Wiggs made a great cut on it. And then Nico just put it right on the lip of the rim. Like, couldn't made a better pass. If it would have been anywhere else, it would have been, 0.6, or something like that. So it was great execution to get that. It was a classic game. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. It's better when you get the win. And it was just, play after play, like both teams, I felt like we were making a ton of plays, but they were scoring, making plays or getting offensive rebounds and, knocking down big shots. But showed some grit, when we were up double digits, 9 points, and then they came storming back and still found a way to get the W.
It's the second week in November. It's one of 82, obviously. But big picture, what can this one mean? To do it without Bam, without Tyler, with a big lead, and then it goes away, and Davion Mitchell happens, and all those things. What sort of building block can this be?
I'm not sure. I'm just embracing the unknown, embracing, the confidence guys are gaining in, what we're doing. It always, helps when you get some W's out of it. But guys, understand our identity, to defend, and that now can create some things for us, offensively. And guys are growing, right before our eyes. Kel'el played his best game, impactful plays at key moments. That's the best game he's played in a Miami Heat uniform. I don't care what the stats are. I know he had 20 rebounds, but those efforts on the glass were incredible. And he was reliable defensively. He was with it. He was in the right spots. Mobley made a couple great shots, but Kel'el was there. He was there doing the right thing. Even the three, he made an effort to close out. He made an effort to close out on Davion Mitchell's three. Those were all winning plays. So, your young guys, can improve. It's not always going to be linear. Nico last game was tremendous. Kel'el tonight, but they're making steps. And, so many guys had, their fingerprints on this game. That's what you have to do when you're playing against a really good team. That's a quality team. They know what they're doing. They know what their game is. You have to rise to that level of competition.
What was the range of emotions like to do just about everything you could have or needed to do before Mitchell hit that three, and then for a team to hold it together, settle in a huddle, and then go back? You talk about that 0.4 seconds.
Yeah, we have a group that's super competitive and building some grit and some mental stability. I felt we would have been in very good shape if that got pushed to the second overtime. I think our guys would have wrapped their mind around that. 5 more minutes of great competition. I think that would have brought out a great level, out of our team. But certainly it was much better to get that lob. It was an instant classic regular season game, for early November.
I know they're obviously a big night for Norm. How much has he kind of meant just as a steadying presence?
Yeah.
With Bam and Tyler,
no question about it. He is such just a proven, versatile, potent scorer. He can do it in so many different ways. I love the versatility of his offensive talent. He can play off the ball, he can play on the ball, he can play pick and roll ball, he can play driving, catch and go game, can play off others. He's developed this, toolkit, over the course of his career, because he's had to play a lot of different roles. but he's clever too. He knows how to use players' aggression against them. He's just we're super grateful to have him. Jaime's really growing too. He's so poised now with an aggressiveness. And like I said, he's making just enough plays, to keep the defense honest. But every possession, he's going to make you have to be locked in, defensively, to keep him from his spots.
Coach, you spoke a little bit about Kel'el there. I mean, kind of looking back at what he did in that playoff series against the Cavs to what he did now. From a coach's perspective, just can you kind of talk about the progress he has made, especially even facing a team with two big...
It's not linear, right? It's not, because, we had that. He had a really good summer of development. Started out summer league kind of slow, then finished with two really strong games. His last game... was the most impactful game that led to a win against Boston. And then it was kind of uneven, in the preseason, at the start of the season. But he's been diligent. He shows up every day, with a mindset to get better. He and Malik have a beautiful, working relationship. They spend so much time together. And, when you're dealing with young players, you just have to... embrace that unknown, embrace the possibilities, and understand, that it's not always just going to be a rocket ship straightforward. So we want to be patient, but you also want to be impatient, through the process. So it's a fine balance.
I know there's moving parts, but, over the years we've asked a lot about clutch offense, late game offense. Sometimes it's stagnated or stalled. With this new system, and you've talked about simplifying reads, making sure the spacing is right. Is this system simplifying those late game situations on offense for these guys?
Yeah, I don't know about, the system. It's just kind of like allowing players, the freedom to be aggressive. And then, where they know where the spacing can be if they get stopped. But, we want to feed as much confidence into these guys, so they can continue to grow, continue to... expand their games, but they're sharing the ball great too. There's that's just a quality this locker room has, which always makes things look a lot better, no matter whatever the system may be.
You mentioned Jaime before, some of those tough mid-range fadeaways just down the stretch. Was the play call for him at the end of regulation to let him go, and just what does that show? I guess the trust level to kind of let him go downhill and kind of get a bucket at that point in the game.
Yeah, I felt like he was going to create, something, some kind of action. But the trust level really is more about the times if he does get stuck, everybody's gaining more trust that he's, okay, you cut me off, there's a help defender, I know where my spacing is, I'll make the right play and the right read from there. And he's grown tremendously, with that. And he doesn't need to get 20 assists. But if he can get, 4, 5, 6, 7 assists, that's only going to help him, with his attacks. And, he puts pressure on the rim, but then you get to that point in the game, you might not be able to get to the rim. You might not be able to make a play, and that's the right play then to, go to the mid-game.
I don't know how often somebody like Davion Mitchell, 5 fouls and 5 turnovers, but is a plus 12 somehow. Incredible. I mean, how do you sum up his impact? You sum
him up by that one loose ball, that jump ball. There was a scrum, offensive rebound, and before I could blink, he was stretched out and had that loose ball. That's what defines him. He's a great competitor. He had 5 fouls. I wanted to switch the matchup. He said, no way. He wanted to take Davion Mitchell as clever as anyone to be able to, draw a foul. We finally convinced him that, Wiggs should take him on the last 2 side out of bounds. But, he does so many little things defensively, just setting the tone for your defense on the ball. But he's great now. He's getting really good off the ball. He's super... or not super, like what we say is slightly reckless. But offensively, he just wants to set guys up, and I guess that is contagious when your point guard is just trying to get people the ball and trying to get them, easy baskets. Thank you.